Hey. Alright, so over on my second channel, I made a list of my favorite Splatoon songs, my top 10 favorite Splatoon songs, and that kind of got me in the mood, kind of just rank all of the final battles, like the final fights in the Xenoblade games from my most to least favorite. So there's 7 of them, so all 4 main games, Xenoblade 1, 2, 3, and X, as well as the 3 side games, FC, Future Redeemed, and Torna. So I ranked them all in order of which ones are my favorite to least favorite. So let's just jump right into it. At number 7, we have Future Connected. Now this is probably the easiest final boss fight in the entire series, and it's definitely the quickest, especially when you're min-maxed and have everything. I finished this fight in under a minute, I think, just under a minute. I don't really have too much to say about this fight. It's kind of anticlimactic. I understand because it's very short. It's only a couple hours long from start to finish, so they didn't have enough time to fully flesh out the Fog King. But even still, the final fight was kind of just anticlimactic, not really a whole lot going on. There's 2 phases and they're not really that hard to get through. So this one is at the very bottom as it's just kind of there, really. At number 6, we have Xenoblade X. Now this fight, it was a cool fight. We finally fought Luxar. Inside and outside the Vita, I think. There were 2 phases, one where he fought him on foot and then the second in the Vita. I don't know, it's been forever since I've done the final boss fight of Xenoblade X, and even then it was a fucking breeze because I was already at max level with pretty nice skills in gear by the time I fought him anyway, because I just did a whole bunch of exploration, like a bunch of side content before finishing on with the story. I think I finally beat Xenoblade X around like 130 hours in, already at max level, so it was pretty easy. But I mean, the fight wasn't too spectacular or anything. I mean, Luxar was kind of a nothing character, which I can't really fault the game for since its focus was on exploration and not so much the story. But I mean, I feel like Xenoblade X, the story and just the whole lore of X in general can be fleshed out a hell of a lot more with more games. There's so much left unanswered in Xenoblade X, especially at the ending, that it would be kind of criminal not to make a sequel or somehow flesh it out in some type of future game. But the Xenoblade X final boss fight, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't really bad at all, but nothing to really, you know, write home about, I guess. Number 5 is Xenoblade 3. Now I love Xenoblade 3, obviously. The final boss fight is actually very cool. The one thing that holds it back and puts it so far down on the list is the goddamn unskippable cutscenes and like sequences in between each playable segment. I don't know why those are unskippable, but there are so many phases to this fight, and damn near all of them have an unskippable cutscene between them, and the cutscene, air quotes I guess, because not really cutscenes, just transitions, are already long enough. And especially on repeat playthroughs, like speedruns or challenge runs, or just fighting the final boss again, it just kind of goes on way longer than it needs to because of these unskippable transitions. Not really sure why they're unskippable, and they're pretty long. So I feel like if we were just able to skip these, this fight would be so much higher up on the list, and I would enjoy the final fight a lot more than I already do now if we could just skip those transitions, because they're just so long for no reason. You'd think they'd, you know, put a patch for that in one of the updates, but guess not. Maybe that's first world problem, just me complaining about something that doesn't matter. But I mean, other people, that has been an issue 4 as well, so it's not just me, okay? And number 4, we have Xenoblade 1. Now, despite, what I say on Twitter, I actually enjoy Xenoblade 1 quite a bit. It's just my least favorite game in the series, but that doesn't mean it's not amazing still. It's a Xenoblade game. It's the least Xeno game, but that's fine. That might actually explain why I don't like it as much as the others. It's the least Xeno out of all of them, so I guess that makes sense. But it's still an amazing game. Xenoblade 1, its final boss fight is nice. Alright, we finally have the long-awaited face-off with Zanza himself. And it's got like three phases, I think. And they are actually pretty cool. The first time I ever fought Zanza, like here, my first time playing through Xenoblade 1 was actually... Well, first time beating Xenoblade 1 was DE. My first time actually playing it was 3D on the damn 3DS, but I first beat it in DE, and I fucking struggled with this fight, especially with those 2 little clones, I guess, that he summons. They kicked my ass, alright? I got fucked hard by those. But the fight is actually still really fun, and especially when he does the whole world reconstructing thing, and then it's just... The battlefield turns into us over like a sea with the sky and the sea. It's just nothing else. It's just we're like over the ocean. I like that a lot. It's very aesthetic and very pretty to look at. The final fight with Zanza was just overall not that bad. It's not that difficult if you know what you're doing, which I clearly was not my first time. But this fight is very nice. The music, I love the music, and just the whole lead up to this with memory space is one of my favorite areas in the entire series. I could gush about that all day. I might just make a separate video of my ranking every final area in Xenoblade, because content. But Xenoblade 1's final boss fight is very nice. I like Zanza's design in the 3rd phase, that big amalgamation of everything, to kind of show that he is the culmination of Bionis. It's kind of cool. Xenoblade 1 has a very nice boss fight. Now we're getting to the top 3, and the 3rd place goes to Torna. Now, I didn't get to record the footage for the final boss fight because started a new game plus, and I'm at the community roadblock, and I'm not trying to do all that right now. So just have footage of my Bridget only Bringer of Chaos run if I can find that. But Torna's battle theme or final boss fight is very nice. All right, it's against Melos, obviously no surprise there, but I think it has the coolest gimmick of any fight in any Xenoblade game. I'm not gonna say Xeno because I haven't played Gears yet. I haven't finished Saga 3, but I'm pretty certain nothing else really happens, at least combat wise. So in terms of the Xenoblade, Torna has the coolest mechanic with the Artifice Gauge and the not Talon, it's just the Artifice Gauge. I think that's what it was. There's something else with the Artifices, but the Artifice Gauge is a really cool mechanic. I'm kind of sad they didn't bring anything else like that back for Xenoblade 3 or even Future Redeemed. But the Artifice Gauge and all of that is such a cool idea to implement like the story in with the boss fight. It's really dope. And just the 2 phases of the Melos fight are nice. I like the music, the aesthetic, everything. Just the whole fight itself is amazing. We get more, and then after the fight, we get more like backstory on Mithra and how Pyra came to be and all of this and the destruction of Torna. It's great. It's an amazing lead up and then an amazing payoff after the fight. The fight itself is just overall very solid. The two phases. It is a bit grueling when you're doing challenge runs like Bridget only on Bringer of Chaos, because Melos is one tanky motherfucker and Bridget does like no damage on her own, so it takes a while. But I really do like the Artifice Gauge. And something else that I noticed while doing that Bridget challenge run is that you can only use the Artifice Gauge if you have Mithra in the party. So if Mithra isn't in the party and the gauge is full, you can't use it. You can't like command Ion or Siren to do anything. You need Mithra in the party to do that, which makes sense since she pilots Siren, so only she can command it around, which I think is a very nice attention to detail that most people wouldn't know about or even be in the position to figure it out, because obviously you're going to have Mithra in the party. Why would you not have all the party members in for the final fight unless you're doing a challenge run or something, or just trying to challenge yourself? But I think that's a very nice attention to detail that the developers put in that they really didn't have to, but I appreciate that it's there. At number 2, we have Xenoblade 2. Xenoblade 2's final boss fight is probably the most nostalgic for me, which kind of makes sense. Xenoblade 2 was my first game. It's the final boss fight I've done the most, since Xenoblade 2 is the game I've played the most, so it's only natural that that would be the case. But everything about the final boss fight I love. The song that plays is amazing. Ion's design is gorgeous. The blue and or the like emerald, teal, turquoise, greenish color with the red go very well together. The design of Ion, if I didn't already say that, the whole room itself, and we can look out behind Ion and then we see the earth right there and then space. So like we're here in the world tree overlooking all of Allrest for the final fight to save it. It's very, very nice. I just like everything about this fight. The environment is eerie and it gives you the feeling that this is the final fight. All right, this will determine whether Allrest is destroyed or not, and we will save it. Right, and then immediately after, with the whole Numa thing, Numa and Rex destroy Ion, and then they talk to Malos for a bittersweet moment. It's great. This whole final boss fight, this final lead up to the end, and then the end is just so amazing. Xenoblade 2 has the best ending in the series. All right, it's my favorite, and I think it is the best. Maybe Xenoblade 3 almost kind of beats Xenoblade 3 kind of beats it out a little bit. It's more emotional, I guess, Xenoblade 3's, but everything else, Xenoblade 2 easily best ending in the entire series. Everything about this boss fight is just incredible. I mean, I don't really know what else to say other than that. Everything is just amazing. There's not really anything else I can say. It's just that good. I love Xenoblade 2's final boss fight. But however, there is one more final boss fight that I think clears everything else on this list and is my absolute favorite. And that is Future Redeemed. I adore this boss fight. It is this boss fight is like a love letter to long-time Xenoblade fans. All right, if you've played 1 and 2, this boss fight will hit a lot. All right, we finally, after all of this speculation on where Ontos is, on who Ontos is, and with the connection with Alvis and Future Redeemed finally confirming that Alvis is Ontos, we finally fight Alvis at the very end of the game. It's just so amazing. He comes out of the fog rift and then he has this whole little speech, and then we fight him. The whole aesthetic of like this gold glow around the environment, plus with the absolute banger ass music, and it's literally Alvis right there with the Zanzawing and the Monado. This entire fight, this entire game of Future Redeemed is just a huge love letter to Xenoblade fans. All right, it's, oh god, it's amazing. I can go on for hours about it. And then the second phase where he goes into his true form, I guess that's Ontos's true form, like how Numa is Pyra and Mithra's true form. I guess that's Alvis's true form, which makes sense. He is the arbiter of the Trinity processor, so basically he's the strongest and the one overlooking it, so by technicality he is the leader, so he's gonna have this big badass form. And this baby face Deus, it looks like Deus. This form looks a lot like Deus from Xenogears, so I mean that just makes sense since Xenoblade 3 and pretty much future connected, but though not confirmed, it's all but confirmed at this point that Future Redeemed in Xenoblade 3 by extension is the episode 6 of Perfect Works. So I mean, hey, everything just came full circle. Xenoblade 3 and Future Redeemed. Future Redeemed is like the culmination of the entire Xenoblade series. Also kind of as well as Perfect Works if you look deep enough into it. Future Redeemed was amazing, alright? This game was amazing. This final boss fight is incredible, and the ending after that is just even more better. Alright, we finally get to see Alvis again after him being gone since way back in Xenoblade 1. Confirmed he is Ontos, and we finally get to confront him after seeing him in the very first cutscene of the game. The absolute very first opening cutscene when you start the game is like Rex, Shulk, and Z up against Alvis. The whole game has been leading up to this, and we finally have our final showdown with him. This fight is incredible. I love it. And that's it. That is my list for all of the Xenoblade final boss fights. We have Future Connected 7, 6 Xenoblade X, 5 Xenoblade 3, 4 Xenoblade 1, 3 Torna, Xenoblade 2 at 2, and at number 1 we have Future Redeemed. I love this series. The final boss fights have always been very well designed and just very thought out, and they feel like final boss fights. All right, although the Fog King was a bit underwhelming, which I mean kind of makes sense. Other than that, everything else, all these final boss fights are just simply incredible. The only really complaint I have about any of them is the unskippable transitions for Xenoblade 3. Other than that, it's great. I don't have any complaints for any of them except for that. So that kind of shows that they're done pretty well, okay? And like I said earlier, I might just make a video on my favorite, or like ranking the final areas of the game, because that'll be interesting. I got some things to say about some of those areas. But yeah, that's it. Kind of running low on content right now. The Xenoblade X video is coming. All right, I know I said it'd be out this last week, but you know, shit happened. So hopefully it'll be out this week. Guaranteed it will be out this week at some point. I'm really looking forward to getting this Xenoblade X video out and seeing y'all's reaction to this. It's going to be a pretty long one too, so close to an hour, maybe a little bit less, but I promise you it's going to be fun. So with that, that's really about it. See you next mission and play some goddamn Xenoblade.